Soft skills can be learnt from books, during conversations, and in teams. We all need them, so how can you develop them? Let's explore. How often are you exercising self-control? I think it's harder than it seems. I think we grow up thinking that we should have self-control. We have parents and caregivers, teachers who try to get us to delay gratification or to sit still or to do these things. And we expect it, I think, as developmental paths that somehow we've all developed that sense of self-control. But this week, as I've written this article, I've also been exercising this for myself and thinking about how is it that I can actually engage more self-control, because I'm tempted. My desire management is a little bit out of whack sometimes. I really want something. And in that moment, I'm really tempted. Could I do this? Could I do that? I'll give you an example that I aim not to have breakfast. I'm trying to fast and having an 18-hour window of fasting. And so really being hungry before I eat. But this morning, I had my tablets and there was a piece of leftover pizza from last night that we home make our pizzas, just a small piece. And I thought, I'll have that. So I broke my rule. I broke my self-control, my value, my thought that, I need to make sure that I'm hungry before I eat. So why did I do that? And we all have little examples in our lives where we do that. It's not to say that we can't. Let's get that clear. And I think there are moments there where we put a lot of pressure on ourselves in order to maintain this strict regime of self-control. But is that really what it's about? Because in the end, when we get to the end of life, we're probably going to say, well, was it all worth it? So where are the areas where we want to have self-control and where can we not? And believe it or not, it is a soft skill. And this is the surprising part. In this book by Kubutova and her team at the University of Olomets, we see that there's listed self-control, like self-regulation, self-motivation, some of the other topics that I've covered in previous weeks as well. So let's have a look at what's included here in self-control. And just a reminder of all of our 30 soft skills. So which ones are you working on? Now in my university, I've been able to share this rubric with most of my students and, helping them to understand what can you self-determine that you need. What do you need to develop in terms of your own soft skills? So these 30 are all important. A lot of them overlap. And like we've talked about, self-regulation and self-control are also quite similar, tie into that self-awareness, and suddenly we have a more nuanced, perhaps, look at what makes what. So there's the QR code if you haven't already explored the book. It's an open source book on Springer, a publication especially for academics, and it's really a fabulous book. So the definition of self-control is it involves governing one's emotions, behaviors, and desires, especially in challenging or tempting situations, enabling decisions that are in line with long-term goals and values. So I only ate one piece of pizza, not 5 pieces of pizza, and filled my belly. Okay, maybe that ticked off a little bit of that desire. Maybe it was just the way in which the pizza was made the night before by my wife. And I thought, wow, I want to have a little bit more. So we've got 5 dimensions to consider. Emotional restraint. There are times there where we really do need to restrain ourselves. We're feeling big emotions. They're not the moments to share those with others. Sometimes I want to perhaps get annoyed at people around me, colleagues or friends or otherwise. Is that the right moment to do it? That's what this is talking about. We can regulate our behaviors. So this doesn't mean that we're denying ourselves, but maybe we say, I have to leave the meeting. I have to go and get some fresh air. I have to go to the bathroom. Remove yourself, regulate yourself through that behavioral change. Desire management. That's all about the way in which we can channel those desires, perhaps ones that we can't satiate right now, into a delayed moment where we can do that at another point. Decision alignment, similarly, is also about the way in which we can really redirect and align back to our overarching goals. This is where our values and our long-term goals are really important. So I still intend and do most days try to wait until I'm hungry before I eat. And so therefore, I can go back to that tomorrow. And resistance to external pressures is the last point there. This is really all about staying on that task, staying on that important goal that we have as well. So making that personal decision and really sticking to it. So there's a little bit of overlap between some of these dimensions that you might see. And really it comes down to we feel feelings, we feel situations. What can we do with that information? How can we access that? How can we delay that if necessary? How can we work with that and understand the messages behind those emotions and then make the right decisions? That's really what emotional intelligence is about. Blending thinking and feeling to make optimal decisions. And sometimes we can't make that optimal decision in that moment. So we need to exercise that self-control in order to perhaps delay the inevitable or to bring something up at a more appropriate time. So how can we strategize and help ourselves? Change your environment. I said in my LinkedIn article earlier this week, just move, go away, pick up your laptop and go work in another part of your house or workplace if you can. Be present. So this was something I recognized this morning. I was driving back from dropping my son off to rugby and I thought, oh, yeah, maybe I could pull into McDonald's. No, I didn't. So I resisted the moment and just kept driving. Good. Great. The moment passed. And I think that's the biggest moment of self-control that we can exercise. Sometimes the desire actually goes away. When we delay that gratification, it won't be that I won't ever not eat, say, a McDonald's breakfast burger again, but I'm delaying that inevitable. I'm remaining hungry, as is my value this morning. Now, I'm back to my values in the sense of, okay, what's truly important to me? It's important that I don't keep putting on weight, that I can exercise, that I can, be and live in a healthy kind of way. So that doesn't mean that I don't have chocolate and I don't have ice cream, but I'm not having it all the time. And I think that's the self-control part. Can we limit what we want? We can have it in moderation. You've probably heard that said before, but therefore we're able to align this with where we want to be in our lives. And then we can truly say with integrity, yes, I am living up to this standard that I set for myself. And if the standard is too high, then maybe you need to adjust the standard as well, which will adjust the environment, which will, again, realign where you need to be. Because watch the pressure, that's self-pressure that we put on ourselves, and we don't need that. Same with these stressful moments that we might have in life. Often it's in the stressful moments that we do reach for that chocolate. We do reach for, these items that can make us feel good in that split second, but then afterwards they have long-term damaging effects if we're not careful. So I haven't drunk alcohol now for several years because I don't need to turn to that. I don't need to want that or use that as an escape myself. But there are great alternatives that I can also use and exercise. So putting it all together, exercise your self-control. Think about your environment, your values, and that integrity that you have towards recognizing that this is something that I want. And so therefore, I'm willing to go without this in order to have that. If I want health, I don't need to have junk food, or if I want to fast, then I really have to obey that protocol. I have to lean into the discomfort that can come with a gurgling tummy or thinking that I've been good, so therefore I can do this instead. That's not the way it works. So look at the 5 dimensions, take a look at the rubric, and put in the comments, where are those things, areas that you struggle with self-control? Where could you up your exercising? And maybe you have some strategies that are already helping you to do so. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching.